the kid ease play get to factor table. Hey, it's Chris. Let's do this. Where did September leave us? The best games I played, as well as the crowdfunding highs and lows. My issues, concerns, and my compliments after we see these projects launch. Because, again, like, there's this shape in my head that I think this game is going to leave or make, and then it doesn't quite fit that when it actually comes to fruition. So let's freaking talk. When we're talking about the crowdfunding winners and losers, again, this is very, very subjective. But I think the two biggest winners for me overall speak are one that I did not completely expect whatsoever, and then the other one, again, just surpassing a little bit of expectation in the same but different way. So let's start with that first one. Terrorscape 2, right? I have been a self-proclaimed, not usual horror type situation person. But the fact that you're coming back, and I guess this just goes to show that there really is a vibe for this type of game. A little bit of one versus, in the sense of you've got a similar overlap in that sense of Final Girl and Terrorscape. Yeah, I know they're not really actually mechanically the same, but what I'm saying though is one versus all, one versus game. And horror theme and a Venn diagram sandwich going on, which just is interesting to me. I have no huge affiliation with horror. Like, horror is, in general, mainstream-wise, very, very small. Like, when you think of movies, right? You think of video games in general. Oh, it has its, definite huge following, very niche crowd. But that huge following is dwarfed by pretty much every other theme across the board. Which is why I never know what to make of these when they're upcoming. Because the money seems to come out of the droves sometimes, and then elsewhere it just fizzles out. But dark themes with horror, I guess, thinking of, maybe not this is not probably dark enough, but this one right down here next to me as well is maybe a better example of this, because the Eldritch vibe in general is absolutely loved by tabletop gamers, which is just, again, just pointing that out as something very interesting and contrary to what you would normally think, I guess. The only thing I really don't have answered with the second campaign is, right? Is it a 2.0 version compared to Marvel United and the Marvel United subsequent successors? But people seem to love it, although the average price per pledge is nearly $300, which, again, if you had told me people were willing to throw $300 bundles at this game, one, it tells me something significant. You have a lot of people that are trying to get in because they weren't in previously, because the all-in gameplay bundle, which, personally speaking, would be the one that I would go for, only is $169. But you have almost equally as many people going in for the Sun-Dropped Deluxe All-In, and you actually have more people for the Deluxe All-In. And that's impressive to get that many new people at that high of a price, because the first is $344 and the second is $299, and so that's where that comes in extensively price-wise. Secondly, Andromeda's Edge, Genesis. And a lot of you are going to hear that and go, yeah, Chris, they got... Okay. Again, let's go back, though, to what I just said with Terrorscape. A lot of those are people getting in new, right? Over 50% of the backers at the time of me filming this, because it's not quite done yet, were new people getting big bundles. So that is going to raise a lot of money. But when you have a Genesis expansion, which is $29, that's not nearly the big bundle, right? So there's probably not as many people buying the all-in there, but still a fair number that probably feel a little FOMO on their previous missed out deluxifications with this, super heavy Euro with 37 different factions. So either way, it's a huge hit for Cardboard Alchemy, and like with both of these, If some is good, more is better. So I will put that out there, Liedstradamus, right now. I guarantee you will see editions, crowdfunding campaigns, numero tres for both of these in the future. My favorite game, though, that I played, that I covered on the crowdfunding of the whole month was actually going to be slightly surprising to you, because I'm going to go with Azure from Bitewing Games. Now, at the time of me filming this, I have not finished playing through the Garden Trio from Mochiba Koya. So that has yet to be finalized in my brain before that campaign ends. And that's the other thing that we probably have to talk about, linking these two together. Azure, it's an abstract. I just got another abstract in the mail today that I'm excited about called Mabula. But it's just a sort of push your marbles across spaces, and you're not going to you'll like it. But where I'm going with that, though, is abstracts don't get a lot of attention. You know, speaking of small things in the hobby, you know, horror is smaller, as, you know, we say sometimes. I said horror is smaller, but let's be completely, well, comparison-wise out there, because abstract is one of the smallest loved mechanisms as a whole. But your boy loves it, and Azure has just enough of that. Well, I don't really care about the theme, but the frickin' game is really good. So, more classical, modern abstracts that can stand the test of time, please, and thank you. But the Mochiba Koya trilogy as well. I said this in the crowdfunding campaign. Biggest Asian publisher that we see on crowdfunding. I'd make the argument that they might be one of the biggest period that sells into North America like this. I mean, the only other one I can think of off the top of my head, and that's my lack of knowledge, so Cardboard East, please school me and educate me on the other big ones. I know Arclight is out there, but the other one I think of as well is Sashi and Sashi in terms of acclaim in that way. So the fact that, again, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with this campaign. Two things always have to be highlighted. This campaign will always be cheaper than secondary market, almost guaranteed, and anything that they sell in their shop, which is not guaranteed to be stocked at all whatsoever repeatedly. So this is one of those few crowdfunding picks that I can do every time, almost, hopefully, when it launches, to say, you know what, why is the reason you back? Because you're not going to probably be able to get it elsewise, or even to get it to anywhere close price-wise. So I give a lot of kudos there. And plus, they might have the best freaking meeples on some of the whole tabletop scene. So got to give kudos where kudos is due. Now, the thing I have to go in the opposite direction is Dogs of War. Again, not because it's a bad game. And this is a game that I will like to end up with a copy of at a later point in my collection. And that's the trouble, right? When we're talking about the contrasting Mochiba Koya Garden Trio and get it on crowdfunding because it's better, I look at this campaign and say, I just can't agree with the choice to put $15 Play to Z gift cards in every pledge level. I just don't like that. Because even if you tell me I'm getting a good deal, I am getting extra money. Like, what if, as a potential backer, I don't want any of your other games? I would rather have the game cheaper. Because somehow this is going to be less than $50 plus whatever shipping is going to be. And shipping, at least at the time of me filming this, for me personally, as the anecdotal example here, is $17. So the retail version, essentially, is what you're going to be giving me for $67. Because the only thing that's associated with this right now in that manner is campaign exclusive alternate art player screens. So $67. And what is this going to be at retail? Now, I can't guarantee it's going to be less, but $67, if even that had minus the $15 for gift card, basically just, don't make me pay shipping, then it's a little bit closer in my head. But again, it's where does my money go to support indie publishing? And so again, really want to love the game, but again, I just don't see the appeal on the crowdfunding as well. I do like the fact that they finally, in the middle of the campaign, put out the rule book. But I look at that also and I go, if it was available from the beginning, that was one of my big criticisms on the roundup. Why was it not out at the beginning? And that's the other side of things that I would have loved to see more of. Just show me more examples, because the videos on there are pretty much all of the old version. And so it's fine, but like when I talked about Zoo Vetus, I could look right at the camera and say, this is what's different about Quo Vetus and Zoo Vetus. This is how it makes me feel. So I love that this game has been well acclaimed, but I can't speak to, other than my own personal, critique, why this isn't getting more than $100,000. Because, again, it was one of those games before the campaign, especially with Shut Up and Sit Down, acclaiming it, because their touch is golden almost every single time. I don't know why this only had 1,700 people backing it. For, again, one of those games where you see it pop up all the time. What game needs to be reprinted? What game should be remade? What out-of-print game do you... Every single time. So squeaky wheel gets the grease, but how squeaky is that squeaky wheel? And apparently not as much as you would have thought. That being said, 100,000 is still 100,000, so I just look at it from, I guess, personally speaking, I expected more funds and more interest. And so just like with Terrorscape 2, this is one of those where I'm surprised, I'm not surprised at the same time. So, well, we'll see where it goes, but it's still on my wish list. Similarly, again, I don't know what to make of Distilled. Distilled is an absolutely great game. Like one of the best Euros in general that fits a wide variety of dynamics and weights and interest in this game, or game type, I should say, over the last couple years. So when Paverson came back and said, hey, here's more Distilled, no surprise that we're, well over $500,000, nearly at $600,000 at the campaign end. How do you feel about plethora of content, right? Everybody has their game, looking even previously, Terrorscape, Andromeda's Edge, my own personal black hole of Marvel United, of this is just, I can't have enough content, right? And so that's what I look at with this, and having cocktails be that for some people, but clearly also people just freaking love it. Now, I'm a little worried when your base game is already as massive as it is, and your expansion alone has 450 components, losing hours and daylights of my life punching and organizing games, good gracious. But is, again, more of a good thing? That is the only question I can put out there with this. But we all have our blind spots. We all have our over interests in. We all have our, I have way too much stuff of this and I can't stop buying it games. So how do you feel? Does this feel good to you still or not? I mean, that's sort of what happened to me at a point with Aeon's End, where I said, I have too much. I have too much of it. Because, I mean, what is important to me is getting it played. And if you can get it played, go for it. Just, again, try not to fall in my own personal FOMO trap. Don't do me. And you know what? Let's go through. I played 13 freaking new games to me this month. I was originally going to do them alphabetically, but you know what? Let's just do them 13 to 1. Rapid fire, thoughts, impressions, previews, whatever it may be. Now, the tricky part with some of these, and that's why they're going to be ranked lower on this list, is I had some incomplete games, prototypes, not final versions of things. And so I have a hard time with anything that falls under that category to kind of say that it is going to be that good afterwards. So it's not an indication that it's a bad game, but it's saying, okay, what is this going to look like now versus what is it going to look like afterwards? And that is exactly where 13, 12, and 11 are. 13, Mercurial Alchemia. 12, Disco Heist Laundry. 11, Moytura. because again, very solid games in each of their own respective categories. Mercurial, the follow-up with a worker placement deck build. But it's so interactive, so many options, that of the games that hit my table easier, that's probably the biggest factor why it's not higher on this list, because it's more complicated, more complex, longer, and I don't play a lot of that style in my household, period. So that is more indicative of what's going to get played rather than necessarily my enjoyment or the excellent factor. This is a prototype. I expect some differences to change between now and then. And also, it's harder to hit the table. I have very few of these games as a whole. And if they're in my collection, again, has to be able to hit the table easier. 12, again, Disco Heist Laundry. Again, the difficulty is relatively high. The turn action combo chaining. The game, I thought, could be a little bit longer. Doesn't quite allow you as an engine builder to do your thing, which is exactly kind of what a lot of people want. And the variability is there. Again, the variability of the map is interesting. The police is interesting. But the combos, again, I'm not really sure what the end game is going to look like. Would like a little asymmetry more between the kingpins. But it's a very interesting concept. I want to see what Rock Manor looks like at the end of this. Again, very solid games, but for different reasons right here. And again, Moytura as 11 here from Bitewing, it's a fine game. Reminds me very much of like The King is Dead with a different vibe. But area control and 2-player only. It does an excellent job for what it is. If you want a 2-player only area control game, this is a really good game. But I am very, very selective on my area controls too. So that's why I can't put it any higher, because the few that I have a hard time hitting the table, and the few that I have, I like more than this, honestly. Like, I'm a big Rumble Nation fan. I'm a huge El Grande fan. I mean, that's pretty much 90% of my area control style games in my collection, off the top of my head at least. So then number 10, again, I had higher expectations for this. I don't even know if it's in here or if it's out in the main room. Horrified Dungeons and Dragons. I traded for it. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or get rid of it. It's perfect weight for my kids. It's a perfect step up for my 10 and my 12-year-old right now. But I look at it and I think it has the same problem as a little bit of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I really like the enemies. I am not as big a fan of the characters. I think there's a little power discrepancy between some of them. I wish the tokens offered you more variety between them. I think you could have done something really special with making a lot of those tokens just different in different ways, of adding an extra ability. It's almost just too light and repetitive in that way to make me want to play it over some of the other better cooperative games I've even gotten in the last 2 or 3 months, let alone 2025, or let alone my collection as a whole. So the kid ease play get to factor table, I don't know why I said that completely out of order. The kid friendly get it to the table aspect is good. But the everything else just makes me go, I'd rather play something else right now. So could I keep it? Absolutely. Will I trade it? Maybe. Then number 9, Spellrift Legends. Again, it was a really, really rough prototype. I love the combo-driven nature of things. I like the idea of the flipping of the realms. I worry about the upkeep at higher player counts, and I worry what the full dynamic of a campaign or a linked situation is going to be. Without having any of that fleshed out to hands-on try, it's a big question mark. I trust Dragori to do it, but again, great game, and great game for me is the question at the end. So if I have hesitations, I can't put it as high as things that I know already are as solid or more for me, which then leads us obviously into the top 8. And that is Dirt and Dust. I'm not sure what to make of this Ares game yet. I need more play, hit to the table factor with this. It's definitely doing something different from a racing game perspective. Laps are based on cards progressing over rounds after dice rolls and allocations to your tableau, which gradually moves and uses the across the board every single round scenario with the weird ability that it's a little bit hard to wrap your mind around of clearing your tableau so you can actually get other cards down there that you need rather than keeping the ones out there that you maybe think are a little bit more powerful. And the lap situation thing of scoring that way is a little bit strange. So it's tough to wrap your mind around comparatively because it is different enough from the other racing games that are out there to make it feel like you could easily own the other ones and own this one too. But will you like it as much because of these differences? That's sort of the wait and see. 7 is very similar in a completely different aspect, and that's Guildlands, of the tile laying building city sprawl. I think it's doing something different with how these different guilds are scoring and placing the tiles and wanting to do that. But I worry about the actuality of placing the tiles and the lack of variety of some of the tiles in the first place, and it hinges on the manipulation of your faction. And so I worry about the longevity staying power in a tile laying situation like this because it is a little bit samey and random grabby at the same time. So I'm kind of with these two both on the fence, which is kind of right why they're in the middle of this. 6 is my most played game of the month, and that's why it's at the 6th and not any lower, because otherwise Kariba, the animal card playing 1 to 8 style Nizia game is, I mean, it's way too light for almost everyone that's going to watch this video. All it is lay an animal card down in one of the 8 stacks around, and if that makes a set of 3 or more, grab the next lowest stack of animals and keep them and score them at the end, and whoever gathers the most cards like that wins. And obviously A1s aren't higher than anything else, so 1s capture 8s, and otherwise subsequently you just take the next lowest set and you have a hand of 5 cards and you just replenish them, and the 5-year-old loves it. The 5-year-old loves it, folks. Again, that table factor is massive, because one thing that, in case you're watching this and you're not used to me or you're new to my channel, I love playing games. I love having fun. The 5-year-old is freaking requesting a game. Boom, your boy is going to play it. Then, this one, I can see this one actually rising higher. I'm going to title a whole different video talking about this as well. I bought the new copy of Magical Athlete from CMYK. I don't have any affiliation with the previous one, and I can see why people hate it, and I can see why people adore it. Do you want to bet on stuff, or do you want to move stuff? If you want to do the former, you get Hot Streak. If you want to do the latter, you get Magical Athlete. It's stupid fun. It's stupid fun. And I've got another game in the mail. I just got a review copy as well. It's another stupid fun game. And so I might be combining those two, talking about the rise, the fall, the benefits, and the downsides of this style of things in the first place. But don't be surprised if this game ends up on people's top 10 games of the year from that aspect of things, because again, the fun factor is going to be off the charts for the right type of gamer with this one. And so it has to be out there, which is why I could see it going much higher, also lower potentially as well. Number 4, right behind me, White Castle Duel. I think a lot of people are going to love this game. It's probably overly thinky, analysis paralysis inducing for me, because you can sit there and really try and action optimize. God, it's such a hard phrase to say without having to do a retake every single time I try and say that phrase on camera. But it is different than White Castle. It is standalone. It does not make you feel like it's just playing White Castle with 2 people and makes you want to get White Castle instead, because you can play that with 3 and 4. And it does something slightly different with the workers putting them out there and then pulling them back. And so the problem with it is because it gives you that ability to manipulate the placement spots with a token, change up the rewards at those certain placements, it's going to be a little bit too unpredictable and not as purely strategic as some people may want. But it is definitely in the upper echelon of the 2-player duel games that I have played, all probably dozen or so that I've played in the last year as well, and that's why it's number 4. Number 3 is going to be a very interesting, again, divisive game. It gives me vibes of Moon with, the Valkyrie expansion from Sinister Fish Games, in the sense that if you want an totally big tableau engine build thing, this is going to be in the vibe and the line of what you're looking for. It's weird though, and this is where it's going to win or lose people, is that you actually want to use up your tableau to then not really trash your cards, but then to get those cards that you were so strongly utilizing to advance your gameplay and get them out of your tableau to score them at the end game scoring. And that's probably going to be the biggest divisive element because it's weird. And the end game scoring is a little bit funky in how you're totaling these up and then multiplying them and totaling them up and multiplying them and adding them in and then summing it. And that's really what you do. So that's going to be, but the deck of asymmetry is relatively outstanding for what it is. And so it's probably one of the nicest from that aspect, which is why, again, it could be a top game for a lot of people once they get their hands on it as well from that. Because, again, it feels like some, but it's also different because each of these cards that you're putting down only has so many tokens on them. And then as these tokens get used up, well, you want to have them used up before you reach the end of the path. Because when you get to the end of the path, then all the cards that you have that don't have tokens on them get put into your trash pile. Well, not really your trash pile, but your stacked pile. And then those are all the ones that get counted for the end game scoring. So you want to do that. But if you use up all those good ones immediately, then are you going to be able to, do all the other stuff you need to do? And so it's a nice balance from that side of things, and that's why it's as high as it is. So number 2, I already alluded to that earlier in the video, Azure. I really like Azure. I don't even need the expansion. It's a very nice abstract game, and I really enjoy it from a classical modern take on things. And then number 1. Now, Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth last year was the number 1 game of 2025 for me. And it was one of those games where I always say this when I talk about crowdfunding and occasionally at retail. I don't really care about themes as long as the gameplay is awesome. But at the same time, the theme sometimes wraps you around its little finger and manipulates you and makes you feel like you like a game more than you probably should based on the pure mechanical approach in the first place. And that's kind of what Star Wars Battle for Hoth has done to me. Is it as mechanically sound as a lot of people are going to want? No. Is it as strategic as people are going to want? No. Is it heavily based on luck dice rolling? Absolutely. Is it more like 2024's Mass Effect board game and how light it is and how tactical it is rather than strategic and not always the best person may win? Absolutely. Do I still really like it and the incorporation of the Star Wars theme gets my kids more interested? Yeah. So again, what gets played, what gets the eyeballs, and it's solid. It's solid in that aspect, and the theme then elevates it, even though you can make the argument sometimes, as I, often do, that it shouldn't, but it does. So there you go. That is my September. Peace out. Let me know what you think. What were your top games of the month? What did I screw up? What did I mess up? And as always, please just be nice to me. I just love talking about games. Peace out. See you later.